sell the water bottles to patrons.
Like what? Oh, water? Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I think this month might have been higher also because we collected the funds for the camps.
Makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Which went really, really well. We had,
Good.
Yeah, the second week, I think they only had room for 28 students for 4 days. They took in 30, and we still didn't have room for 8 more that didn't get in. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Just
great.
The second week. The first week was usually better.
It's nice to be offering something like that for the kids here. Yeah, that's great. Okay, Roger, your report?
Basically, Public Works have been doing some preventative maintenance on the vehicles. And the Rudy Park, we got another portable sanitary station there. It'll kind of tide us over until we get a permanent restroom facility in place. As you recall, the last one was vandalized pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And in the planning, we'll work on the home occupancy and noise ordinance is continuing, and that'll be back in front of you with a recommendation from the Planning Commission shortly. Work finally is starting to materialize on the Rancho Vista. Plans are in, and we're doing the plan checking. I've got a subdivision agreement here, and Deborah will be checking that, and we'll be putting that together. They're going to go on the first 4 phases for the initial phase, and that would be phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the D'Ambrosio, that went in for the Planning Commission, and they approved a modification of the PUD permit to 2 phases, phase 1 and 2, and that'll be at your next meeting where you approve and modify the PUD permit to coincide with that. They also submitted a site design review for 8 new parcels along 3rd Street, and that'll be phase 1, and they'll be widening 3rd Street, grading those, and then seeking building permits for the first 8 lots along 3rd Street. And that includes a roundabout at the corner of 3rd and Donner Street.
Did you get, I know you got elevations from them?
Yes.
Have you gotten, have those been updated?
Oh yeah, they were updated. The first series came in, and the Planning Commission rejected them because they were all the same and all 2 stories, and they came back, and so they got some single story as well as 2-story, and then they changed the architecture, exterior architecture, to make them look significantly different from one another, even though they're the same floor plan.
So, okay, but because I mean they were every single one was exactly the same giant stucco box.
Yes, yeah.
They were.
Yes,
there was no architecture.
Yeah, there was no diversity in change, and so Planning Commission got the results of it and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as you recall, in our annexation program that we started back in 2012, we identified 9 parcels to be annexed, and the 8th one came in front of the LAFCO on July the 14th, and it was approved, and that's the 13 acres of the Catherine Mannings along San Juan Hollister Road. So there's 1 left, and that's the 9th one, and that applicant has kind of pulled the application, and so we'll just kind of wait and see where that's going to go. But basically, we've completed now all 8 annexations, and that goes back to your direction to straighten out some of the inconsistencies of our city limits, where we had our reservoir was in the county, our well number 3 was in the county, and 1/3 of the cemetery was in the county. So it resulted in some positive steps and stuff like that. The city manager, we finished the budget and everything, and however, the bad news is that we got news that they next year's medical expenses starting January 1st increases 12%. And so, however, we hedged in our budget and we increased our allocations in this year's budget by 5%. So they're 5% more for 6 months. Then after January, they will be 5% carried through. And so the 5% plus half of the 2.5% is, we've really got about 7.5%, and our last half of the year is going to only result in about 6% increase. So we're still positive on our medical all the way through June 30th of 2017. But the following year, you'll probably see then the jump of an additional medical expense of major medical, dental, and vision. This year, it's kind of covered, because we anticipated it.
Do the employees pay any part of that?
No.
Okay, are we reducing any of their, or has there ever been any cutouts?
And not at this time, no.
Not at this time.
Yeah. As the medical costs continue to escalate, and we don't know, and it's contrary to Mr. Obama by saying this is that it's going to decrease, it's going up, is that we might have to find that we might ask the employees to maybe pay a fair share of it into it, or reduce some of like the dental or the vision. But those are things that we're going to just address as the cost of major medical goes down the line. Right now, it's still manageable in our budget process.
I kind of hate to see them take a hit, because of what's going on with that. I know, they have families and depend on this, and to work somewhere and have an additional out-of-pocket expense, is kind of detrimental to that, and I hope we can find either be able to support that.
Yes.
Have you shopped it recently, or is there not? I mean, maybe
Well,
that's something
we
that we
go
can
through
get
it.
together with
We
Tricia, maybe a couple of to get a sense of what the staff wants, and then maybe enlist their help in doing a little research as well.
Within the last year, Roger asked me to look at other providers for healthcare.
Yeah.
And I got two or three estimates, and they just flat out said they couldn't beat what we have through Aqua. And I think it's because it's a $25 deductible to the employee, and it's a $1,500 out of pocket.
Wow.
Total?
So, yeah.
That's great.
So most are $3 or $5 grand, I think.
Well, they're
That's
So we're keeping
I'd
an eye
love
on
that.
we're keeping an eye on all of our options and stuff. But right
Sure.
now, it's affordable, and we can go forward, and it's manageable within the budget framework that we've established.
it's not going to get better.
No.
We're just gonna next year we're going to have to budget more. Is my guess, realistically.
Because I'd hate to lose any of these employees.
Yeah, and I talked with Ray at the county, and theirs jumped up about 22%.
Wow.
It was a major hit for them.
And I hate to lose some valuable employees due to, what other counties and cities offer too.
Yeah. Good.
That's what I keep telling them. They want to lose me.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Any questions? Public meetings reports and city council committee reports. Chris, did you have any meetings?
The meeting I had on Monday is agendized separately. The AMBAG and intergovernmental did not meet. They both sort of have a hiatus here in the height of summer, I think. So, no, I did not. Oh, the strategic plan committee met, I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anything of particular interest at this point. The Youth Commission continues to make progress. They've been meeting regularly. In fact, I saw them meeting down at Vertigo on Saturday. And then oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank, I'm sorry. I think the next push is going to be on some sort of citywide volunteer organization. And so that's in the very early formative stages, and trying to figure out how and what that might look like. But my hope is that that'll be and I think that'll end up being some sort of clearinghouse for people looking for volunteers and people interested in doing volunteer work, and perhaps putting those people together. So.
Okay, didn't you have an ad hoc committee meeting also
We did not meet, no.
on the Orchard Park?
No, we did not. I don't think we've met since the last council meeting.
Oh, no?
That's what I told you, Abe. He didn't call Roger and I for lunch, so.
I got the impression it was this past Monday.
Yeah.
That's agendized.
That's okay.
That's an
All right.
agendized meeting.
Okay.
And so yeah, that'll be a separate
Okay.
item.
Tony, did you have any?
Nothing from COG.
Nothing, okay. I had a LAFCO meeting last Thursday, and Roger reported on the results of that already.
Fire and intergovernment was canceled this month.
Fire and regional water district, water board is canceled.
Okay. And neighborhood watch.
July's a good month.
Yeah, did I see Eric come in?
No, but he asked me to pass on.
They canceled, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But he asked me to pass on word that the August 11th meeting will have a guest speaker, Dennis Kidd from Santa Cruz 911 will be there in attendance to be able to talk about the 911 system changes, upcoming changes and enhancements. I believe they're on the verge of being able to accept text messages, which is a big change that's happening. But Dennis Kidd will be here August 11th
Okay.
for the neighborhood watch meeting.
All right, we go to number 5, action items. A is consider contract for private security patrol.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you recall, we were concerned about the number of burglaries and thefts and property damage in late hours, and we solicited proposals from 2 firms that can provide us late evening and early morning hour patrolling services to augment the Sheriff Department 42-hour per week law enforcement services. We received the 2 proposals, basically a first alarm system and level 1. Each of them substantially are almost identical in terms of costs and everything, and they don't vary more than a couple $100. Each one of them have the capabilities of providing the service to us, and we have both of them in the audience, and I've invited them to speak to the City Council. We got Ben Davis from First Alarm, and he's available to make a presentation and talk to them from First Alarm, and then there's JP from First Level 1 Service. Yeah. Ben, would you like to talk? Or Cal? Cal?
Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for having me here today to answer any questions you might have about the proposal. This is Ben Davis, I'm a branch manager. My name is Cal Horton. I'm the president at First Alarm Security Patrol and First Security Services. I manage all of our branches and have worked in various functions here in the city with some of the private vendors over the years. And love the little town, so I'm happy to answer any questions I might have about the proposal. As an opportunity to run
Yes.
Okay. Is there any particular place you'd like to start with the question, or just an overview, or?
Maybe a little background?
Sure. First Alarm is security and patrol. You've probably seen the vehicles around for many years. We've been in the Central Coast since 1966. I've been with the company since 1987. On our uniform services side, we're actually 2 companies. We're First Alarm, as you probably see the decals around town on the windows and what have you. And then there's the sister company, First Alarm Security Patrol Inc., which I'm the president of. All we do on our side is uniform services, which is primarily fixed site officers throughout Northern California, and we run the largest vehicle patrol operation in Northern California. And then we do an awful lot of special events, including things you'd be familiar with, such as the Garbage Festival and many of the functions in town with Mr. Williams over the years. We have about 8 offices in Northern California, running from King City up through Santa Rosa. The closest one here is in Hollister on Tres Pinos, and we have one in Salinas on Davis Road. And we are headquartered out of San Jose, and that's sort of the center of our footprint. On our side of the business, I would say right now probably 45% of our revenue is municipal government. We literally work with dozens and dozens of counties and cities, there's a list of in your reference pages and the proposals you have in front of you, but they run from the County of Monterey all the way up through the county of Sacramento, city of San Jose. If you've flown in and out of San Jose, all those young men out at the curb keeping things moving and writing tickets to those that aren't cooperating are first alarm staff and first security services staff. And we've been with the city of Santa Cruz, working directly with the police department on various patrol functions directly for them in various parts of the city since the early 80s. And the county of Santa Cruz, we've been with a little longer than that. The county of Santa Cruz, we also ran their parking enforcement program and still do. At one point, it covered the entire coastline, all the no parking areas you see, the 10 to 6. We ran the ranger program for the county of Santa Cruz for about 12 years. And we currently run all the parks programs and the ranger pieces that they contract out for the city and county of Santa Cruz and Monterey. And our other vertical markets, if you will, are hospitality, places like the Fairmont hotels, and tech markets, of course, being in the Silicon Valley, and an awful lot of a tourist market, sort of related things in the area. Our staff range in experience from, of course, novice security officers, entry level, all the way through to current police officers, depending on where they're assigned. As in every security company, officers are handpicked for every assignment, and based on their background and based on their skills. And in reviewing of your requirements here, we determined that we would want them to have at least a basic level, which we refer to as an 832. 40 hours of reserve officer training as part of the penal code, but it's kind of the entry level that allows them to write citations if they wanted to, or if you wanted them to. And then the next tiers up are Reserve Officer 2, Police Academy graduates, and then there's folks that have a wide variety of background other than that, such as emergency medical technician. I'm an emergency medical technician myself and former police officer, as is Ben Davis. Ben Davis is with the federal police agencies here. So we reviewed in detail what you're looking for. It mirrors what we do and have done for many, many years with many other agencies. We certainly have the resources with the 24-hour communication center that's staffed with at least 3 to 4 people 24 hours a day. Easy to get a hold of. We have 0 voice answering machines. We rely on, for communications with our officers in the field, we rely on two-way radio communications, meaning that we have repeaters on the various mountaintops around Northern California, and our officers can talk via two-way radio to our dispatch center, and anybody calling into dispatch center, it's handled as a regular call to a normal agency would be, where we gather the information of the caller, what time the call came in, what they're calling about, what time the call was dispatched, when we got there, what we did when we got there, what outside agencies may have been involved, what their case numbers may be, all those things. So that's certainly a significant attribute of having folks at the ready 24 hours a day, and that's available for all the folks we work with. We also do use conventional cell phones, of course, and several other forms of communications that may be specialized for certain places and different industries. I could go on, but if there's anything you had in there, I could answer things that might be more specifically related to you. Employees-wise, we have I would estimate about 1,400 employees. As I said, we cover about 8 offices here in Northern California. My farthest most is we are the county of Mendocino, and into the Central Valley, we're the county of Sacramento and the city of Stockton. And then we move south, probably King City's as far south as we go. We carry, insurance-wise, we carry $10 million. PLPD, you're already an additional insured. You have been named additional insured for a while because of some of the special events and things we've done with you in the past. So you have been for quite a while. Carry $1 million auto. Our safety record we consider impeccable. My experience modifier, for those of you familiar with how workers' compensation works, is 0.66. In an industry such as mine, that's a pretty incredible number considering the number of employees we have. So we consider safety first and foremost, and spend a lot of diligence in training our staff, working with our staff, ensuring that the proper staff are in the proper places, and continual supervision is certainly the key to success in any security program. And with the level of service that we have here in your county, and we are the county of San Benito, also, by the way, the city of Ulster. With the amount of folks that we have in the different industries, their supervisors in the field constantly. Nobody's by themselves for long. People are dropping by saying hi, seeing if there's anything they can help with. Ben's here all the time. There's just a tremendous amount of resources we bring to the table. All our folks have great medical benefits that we provide the bulk of the premium for, and as I heard discussed earlier, yes, that's certainly been going up, and with the number of folks we have, that's a pretty significant impact for us too. But we think that it's key, again, for the same reasons. People depend on us, they trust us to take care of them and their families, and the level of benefits that we can provide, certainly we continue to strive to review those on an annual basis and make adjustments where, you know, there might be some give and take on premiums versus benefits, but they're things that we look at on an ongoing basis. Officer safety wise, our guys, we were one of the first agencies to work with body cameras. I have the newest version sitting on my desk. It's a really neat little wireless one. Does some really nice things. Depending on what the situations, the officers carry different levels of defensive devices, defensive tools, if you will. Anywhere from pepper spray to impact weapons to tasers, and in cases where it's required, firearms. There certainly isn't an instance where we were considering or even requested to talk about firearms, but we are required to have those for the municipalities where we work with prisoners and some Department of Defense contractors. We are a Department of Defense contractor, and we're factory neutral certified, and currently the only CalSega certified security provider in the state also.
Very good.
Thank you.
You list the man-hour wage. Now, your overhead is on top of that, is that correct?
Well, I list a man-hour wage. There's two different numbers there. There's a number of the wage to the officer, and then there's your flat bill rate number. The wage to the officer I list because it's important, it's important to identify the demographic of the employee you're going to have in the different areas, and they're different everywhere you go. For instance, the Peninsula of San Francisco, I couldn't get anybody to respond to an ad for less than $20 an hour, certainly, and that changes over in the Central Valley, and it changes here. We made the recommendation to the city manager that we go with a rate of $15 an hour to the employee here, after consulting with my managers and with the supervisors. And the rate that you have, the bill rate you have there, which I believe is 23 something, is all inclusive. There's nothing on top of that. And the budget numbers overall are based on an 8-hour night shift, 10 to 6, wasn't it? 10 to 6. So the weekly number that you have there is based on an officer on duty from 10 to 6, and so that's 7 days a week. So when we did that extension of the math on that, it's simply the hourly rate times 8 times 7. Sometimes we're asked for monthly rates. It would just be times 52 divided by 12 for budgeting reasons. But certainly we carefully evaluated the rate and weighed in everything that we would need. So there's no equipment charges on top of that, no communication charges, nothing for any, there's literally nothing on top of that. That's the bill rate is what it is. And certainly for the dollar, we think that it's a tremendous amount of resources brought to bear for the hourly rate.
I think in my proposal, I extracted 8 hours a day for 363, 2,904 hours. And that's what I based our budget on.
Right.
Any other questions?
No more questions for these guys at this point, for me anyway.
Which one of these price consideration recommendations, which one are we looking at?
We're not. None of those specifically.
He recommended number 3. Isn't that right, Cal?
There were initially some different recommendations, but yes, after conversations with the city manager, we did settle on, I believe it was number 3, and it was the 8 hours a night. Mm-hmm. There was some options there. The options kind of provided for 10 hours, a little bit longer shifts. There were some options for breaks in the middle, which would allow for an 11-hour shift for only paying for 10. There's different options there.
Okay.
But I believe that is the one that's settled on there, and that's what the final numbers were done on, and I believe that...
I think we felt that the 10 o'clock to 6 in the morning was one of the most thefts and burglaries occurred. That's what we wanted the eyes and ears
I would overlap. I think the 6 a.m. stop date is too early because we know that the sheriff's shift change occurs at 6, and I think we want to overlap that. That we've seen a number of the break-ins occur right at that time. They're using that shift change. We know they're using that shift change to ensure that there's no officers in the area. So, but I assume that shifting it an hour doesn't make any difference to you guys, so
It does.
that we can sort out.
And I think the only reason I stopped at 6
Yeah.
is that Joe, my public works
Sure.
and I generally arrive here at 6
Sure.
in the morning, and he cruises the whole town for,
Sure.
as well as I do.
Sure.
What do they have for overlap on lunch and breaks?
In this instance, we would have what's called we have two options, but what we would recommend is called an on-duty meal break, which means if there's a single officer assigned to a location, we have the option of doing an on-duty meal break or having the patrol officer in the area come and relieve him, so that, and in that case, potentially even extend the shift a little bit of time at no extra cost, but that was something that we hadn't got into detail on yet. Either way, it doesn't cost you any extra money, so we have options of doing an on-duty meal break or having the patrol officer working in the Hollister area come and do his half-hour meal break for him, and then of course there's the 2 breaks before.
Yeah, because I'd hate to give them, a window of opportunity. Say, well, we just
There
wait
would
till he
never,
goes on
there would
lunch.
not be a break, there would never be a break in coverage, certainly in our industry, that is a bedrock. There's no point where they can leave unless, of course, it's a patrol account where they're only doing certain patrols during the night. And mentioning patrol, we do use a very sophisticated guard tour system that is smartphone based and actually allows you to log on and look at the activity of the officer in real time from anybody that you decided to grant access to could do that. And we use RFID tag checkpoints, which we would pre-establish a rough checkpoint, things that we wanted to cover, and establish the parameters, the timeframes to cover them, and that creates a permanent record. It also creates a breadcrumb trail, and we can create things such as geofencing, where we know if anybody in certain areas. I'm sure these are things that you're familiar with and have heard of, but it's a pretty sophisticated proprietary system, and you have access to that, and it just generate reports that are provided on a regular basis to you, be it a daily interval or weekly interval. The other thing I would suggest is that we have a representative here at every meeting. As I saw, you're currently doing the fire department, sheriff's department, and we would provide a report to you based on statistical information that had happened during the previous programs and recommendations that we came up with during that. During our actual operations, we'd say, this worked well to get started. We think maybe we should, if we tweak this a little bit, these are things that we ran into and we saw. Again, certainly we have just a huge amount of experience with it, and the folks that would be working here have been with us. Many of our folks have been with us many, many years. Many of our officers have been here, some of them over 20 years, some of them. Our turnover at our company is 48%, which in an industry that pushes 100 again, says a lot, we feel, for the organization about how we respect our employees and take care of them, and certainly encourage and provide opportunities for them, and do what we can. Thank you again, and if you have any other questions, I will be here and happy to answer what they are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second proposal we had was from JT from Level Service, and JT.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and the City Council, how are you guys tonight?
Good.
Yes, I
Good.
put out a new proposal after talking to Roger and broke down everything that you requested, Robert, in regards to the hourly wage and vehicle and stuff like that. The one thing I can say that's different from me and any competitors, and I want to be in front, is that we're not a large corporation. We're a small, local town. And, Tom, a security company that we have a lot of stuff here and around the area, so that's what separates me from a lot of different competitors. Any questions?
Currently, you guys are servicing Bound or
Truly, I have Truly Farms. Yes, sir, that's correct.
What else are you covering besides Truly?
We have a lot of contracts, patrol and standing contracts, and Salinas as well.
Anything in Hollister?
We do work for the Hollister Police Department.
You guys have been up here a couple of times, so
I think what we've already asked, we probably asked prior.
I think that what Mr. Horton said and what I said is kind of mirrored each other. So I don't want to waste your guys' time, and please don't take that the wrong way. Do everything. We do a lot of work with the Hollister Downtown Association. We do a lot of work with the Elks Lodges in Hollister. This year I didn't take the 4th of July rally. The last 4 years I've ran the 4th of July rally for the security. That includes everything downtown to the Hollister Police Department 3 building. This was our 5th consecutive year working with the Chief of Police and the commanders over there. You know, they keep hiring us back every year because I think that our quality of service and the work ethics are pretty good. And we also pay a little bit more than norm. You know, we don't have as much overhead as a lot of companies. You know, we're able to pay quality people for quality work, and that's what I expect. And like I said before, when I was at the last city council meeting, was you don't want to be embarrassed. I'm going to hire somebody to do the job. There's actually going to be more than just one, but you know, 1 to 2 people that aren't going to embarrass me and aren't going to embarrass the city. They're going to do the job, and I'm going to pay a higher wage for that. So. I also, and if you guys look at the front page there is I broke it down into 5 different sections or 4 different sections of what thing, and one was when we discussed it last time with special events, and I gave you guys a break on that. So the hourly rate for the guard that's going to be patrolling here, or the officer, will be a lot different than the hourly rate for the special event, and you know,
We hold the promoters for security, right? On special events.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
what's that? What was the question?
We hold the security to the promoter.
Yeah, they have to provide the
Security for that.
the security.
Yeah, they do. They're required to provide security, depending on the event. Roger, I think it would be, from my standpoint, I'd like to see contracts. I mean, I feel like we've got great information from both companies, and I'd just like to see a contract.
Oh, okay,
At this point,
Yeah, they provided me the contract, I didn't bother to.
Yeah,
right.
and I don't know how the rest of you guys feel about it, but I'd like to see contracts from both and then be able to go through it, spend some time on it, make notes. I've been talking to a friend of mine who works in this industry who's given me some, pitfalls to look for and that sort of thing that I want to make sure in the contract. But, I feel like we're all pretty close to on the same page in terms of what we're looking for. You guys are talking about exactly what we want, but I think we're at that point. That certainly feels like it to me. I think there may be a public comment here too, by the way. But
Also, I know, Roger, we discussed about a car and how we're going to do
and
that.
I think that was one of the dialogues that I had is that we have 2 vehicles and we can make any one of those available and transfer it over to them.
Right, and that's where the contract becomes the doc. That's what's going to drive this. That's what's going to tell us exactly. Because right now there's advantages in my mind. There's advantages and disadvantages with both companies.
Yes.
But the contract is what's going to decide it, I think, in my mind.
Well, I have contracts from both of them, and
Sure.
and I'm certainly, yes.
Great.
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
Yes.
I figured.
John Hopper?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and city staff, I'm pretty passionate about this. This is what I do for a living. I'm retired from law enforcement, but for a number of years I've served major Fortune 500 companies as a security expert. Your Strategic Planning Commission asked me to look at this and various other options for the city back on January 29th. I prepared a 3-page report for them, which I'm sure you've all seen. And I think that this option of private security, regardless of which firm you go with, really will do well for this city. I say that again, I'm a former union police officer. And for a union police officer to tell you this is a good option, I think that says a lot. I think Mr. Edge was also in consideration. What I guided that committee to look at were specific RFPs. I also told them I'd be glad to review any RFPs they had. They haven't come back to me with any. But the things that I think you should look at is the possibility of cost recovery. I think that you can use a group like this to, issue citations for things that really are cost recovery related. For parking, for code enforcement, what have you. Mr. Horton mentioned something about 832, so as long as they have that under their belt, they can issue those citations for you. I think also that these need to be true community officers. That they are somebody that when you're on vacation, you can call their dispatch center, say I'm going to be out of town, how do I get to come by my house? You shouldn't just think of it as preventing burglaries downtown. You should think of really fully leveraging the potential of your costs that you're spending. I also recommended the Strategic Planning Committee that they have minimum requirements, such as a 24-hour UL dispatch center with live guard tour capability so that you know that those officers are actually there, and they establish checkpoints and go around the city and wave a little magic wand, or I think Mr. Hort said something about a cell phone. That you look at the wage and benefits of the employee. I think if you find the right people, you'll find people that will work here for 5 or 6 years, or they'll work here for 3 years and go on to be police officers. The current sheriff of this county was one of my students when he was 18 years old. He was a security guard. So they either hire the right caliber people and they progress through the ranks in law enforcement or something else, or within their chosen profession. I strongly encourage, and it sounds like the council is taking that action, to adopt this. I would ask you to very carefully look at the experience mod of those organizations to choose. I had told the Strategic Planning Committee that they needed to have current ongoing real city supplementary experience with like police departments or airports and things of that nature. And I think both of those said that they work actually for them. But I would dig into that and their references. Again, I'm pretty passionate about this. I'd be glad to volunteer any more time. I spent 27 hours on this project with your Strategic Planning Commission, looking at camera surveys and security officers and talking to the sheriff and whatever we could come up with. But I commend the council for taking this action tonight. Glad to help in any way, shape, or form I can. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any other public comment? None? Okay. Bring it back to the council. So, Chris said what he thinks.
Then we'll go to Tony.
I think we really have to look at both of these companies, get some references or whatever, talk to the chief of police in Hollister. That's one of the reasons I asked. I really, as a security guard, I would not want to be in Salinas, but I would like to be in San Juan. So, I think it's going to take a little more. We can't just do this tonight and say, okay, it's level 1 or first alarm, whatever. I don't think. Iron out this thing with the car, and go from there. Hopefully, between now and next council meeting, we can arrive at a decision and pick which one we want to and I'm presuming we would go on a year-to-year basis, so that if whichever one we picked, if we weren't happy with them, we can come back to the other one,
So the direction there is get you copies of all of the contracts, stuff like that, and if they have additional stuff that there, you can give it to me, and then I'll distribute it, and then we can kind of go through that, and then bring it back at the next meeting.
As you say, the devil's in the details, and the details are in the contract.
Do we need a closed session to determine
Yeah.
this?
And Deborah said that it's always good is to have our insurance company kind of take a quick look at that, yeah.
That'd be great.
At Parsax, yeah.
I think it would, I would also suggest that this is probably the time for staff to start on references for both. I think, does that seem, that seems like a good idea.
So
I've done a fair amount of hiring in the past, and it is amazing how few people check references, and it is amazing what you can find out.
I did like the reference that John Hopper made about cost recovery.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can expand on those cost recoveries, whether if, you know, an intruder is caught or vandalism, or any of the parts on that. If somebody's caught vandalizing, you know, or security catches them, there should be some type of cost recovery in that could be added in.
Well, that would be
You
up
should
to
be
the
able
court.
to assign code enforcement duties to this company and then recover through
Right.
code enforcement.
I think that was part of code enforcement.
Do we have to adopt a cost recovery policy or anything like that? I know.
It would just be a delegation of authority because you already have a code enforcement that comes straight to the city through your ordinance. So it doesn't go to the county, it goes straight to you, so we're happy there.
And I think what he's getting at is we would potentially reassess those dollar figures.
Sure.
Yes.
In view of the additional cost we've incurred. Is that,
You can look at
that's what I
your
think what you meant.
citation, adjust the citation amounts.
Right.
So I guess what we need is a motion to continue to the next meeting.
So move.
Section.
All in favor? All right, roll call.
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Lund?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Margarita?
Aye.
Mayor Edge?
Yes.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
I think we should thank both of these guys first.
Yeah. Cal and JT, thank you both for coming and making a presentation today and in past times, and forgive us for extending the process a little bit longer. Thank you.
Where is my 5?
Okay, we go to 6B, consider proposal for term life insurance benefits to
5B?
city employees.
Is
Pardon
that
me?
5B?
5B? You don't want to get out quicker?
I do, but
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll go to 5B then. Consider, I was reading the right one, I just don't know my numbers yet.
And I didn't catch that.
So, term life insurance benefits to city employees in lieu of floating holiday. Roger?
And as you recall, I brought this attention back to you at your last meeting where the fringe benefits for employees was 2 floating holidays. And I felt that, you know, my personal feeling is that we do not have a life insurance policy. It was canceled years ago. And that giving the fringe benefit of a day off, and then he comes back to work, he's got a great memory, but I feel that we should really be looking after our employee and giving him those protections and their family protections. So I cost out a $20,000 life insurance policy, and it was substantially less than what we would give 1 day off of all those employees. And I felt that maybe that would be a good swap.
what if something happens to him on the day off?
Yeah. Yeah. So the normal holiday schedule for most government employees is about 11 holidays, paid holidays, and then the 2 floating holidays brings it up to 13. In the private sector, that generally runs about 8 to 9 holidays, and that's typically in most of the private industry.
So our overall savings for the 2 floating days would be cheaper than
Yeah, and what I'm recommending is to give them 1 floating holiday and cancel 1 floating and give them the life insurance. Now, I know our HR representative, Trish, she disagrees with me, and she'll probably come up and make her presentation.
Well, she doesn't get that day off now.
No, yeah, right.
Or we could call this a day off.
Yeah.
Well, I included I called it rebuttal to the staff report. And I hope you all got it. If you did, I can read it. Where I include some of the history that we've always had. The 13 holidays, and one was Good Friday. And one of our council members felt that it was kind of confusing to the public whether we were open or whether we weren't open, and suggested that that should be a floating holiday for the employees. So we've always had 13 that employees could take advantage of. Private industry gets 8 or 9 holidays, but they also get profit sharing, Christmas bonuses, and various different perks. How many holidays at Granite Rock?
Pardon?
How many paid holidays are at Granite
You know,
Rock?
actually, I don't know the answer to that.
7 at West Marine.
Every day,
7 at West
Yeah.
Point.
seems like.
7.
Yeah.
Private sector.
Except for in jurisdictions where there are areas where they're compelled to have more.
Yeah.
Like British Columbia, they have, I think it's 10 or 11.
And if
All I
you-
know is you never get the day after Thanksgiving, because if you're offered work on that day and you don't come in, you don't get paid for Thanksgiving. That, Teamsters.
And then if you're from New Jersey or Boston, it's Bastille Day.
Yeah.
And that's one that I didn't realize they give it off, you know, right?
We couldn't open before noon in Massachusetts.
Right, yeah.
It's just unchristian.
Well, I think I've got you all beat. We close down Christmas Eve and come back the day after New Year's, and it doesn't count against our vacation time.
Remember,
Well, we do that, but
we
it's just-
got the same
Well, you
thing.
can't teach if no one shows up.
We have the same thing, but if you don't take your vacation, you don't get paid for it. He decided nobody's going to work between Christmas and New Year's.
I accumulate 5 weeks, 200 hours.
I just felt that giving protection to the employees and the family was equally important as a day off, you know.
Yeah.
Now,
Not everybody has their own insurance, and a lot of times it's something you don't think about. But I have group term life insurance where I work, and what they do is they charge us on our deductions, but they credit us on our income, so we end up paying the taxes
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And it's
Like a
provided
company
in it.
car,
I
yeah.
forget what it is, but it's pretty healthy. So, you never know when something's going to happen, and if you're not prepared for it with insurance,
And you're in the security field as well, so you're
Yeah.
in a risk.
well, I dress like this. I don't wear a hard shirt.
They switch it up to
The
management.
students don't bite yet, so.
Yet.
But a funeral, I don't know what a funeral is. It's got to be at least 5, and I think it's
No,
probably
it's
closer to 8 minimum.
$7.75.
Yeah, with kind of a bare bones. And so,
Not
that
if you're a
can
veteran.
hit you kind
Let's
of hard.
ask the guy from the cemetery there.
I'm sorry?
Sorry to wait. He just sells the plots. He doesn't.
All I do,
No
and
involvement.
I got a really good deal on columbarium niches right now.
You ever heard what John Ferreira calls us?
You want to throw that into the
Come and bury 'em.
benefit package?
Yeah, Tony, you want to give them a niche? That's part of their benefit, death benefit.
It's quite possible we could work something out. But I have a question. A $20,000 policy, $873.60 per year, to cover 11 employees?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now,
That's only $80 a year.
It's
My rate was the highest.
The daily wage
It was
is more.
My rate was the highest, and it was $110 times the thing. But
Based on
I'm a
age.
contract employee, and so I'm exempt, and I don't need it, so we just took the salary employees, and that was 10 employees.
What about the difference between the 43 and the 8? You're paying 43, 22.56 a year for the 1 day
Yeah.
holiday, and then the insurance is only 873 and 60.
It's a savings, and when I did that is that before I talked to Wendy, I thought that was going to be my savings to handle the increase in medical premiums, and I didn't realize that Wendy had cranked up a 5% already into the budget, so. you know, and so that was what motivated me to do a little bit of savings. But there'll be a savings, yeah.
It's really been a long time since I worked. We never got Veterans Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah, he wasn't born when you were.
President's Day.
He was
Good Friday. And approval of the city manager. Wow.
Well,
Of course,
we're comparing apples and oranges, I think, is part of our problem here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's,
One of my friends works for the NSA. His mother retired, and she took a year and a half off. She had so much accrued time off in a government job. I mean, it's just a different, it's a completely different animal.
They don't cut
a
it
lot
off
of
at the end.
agencies now put a cap on how much you can accrue.
Sure. But my point is that we're sort of talking apples and oranges. I guess I have two questions. What's sort of can we go to the League of California Cities and get some feedback on what is typical?
I've already checked that and everything, and coming from this town of Los Gatos, the city of Campbell, and the city of Hollister, which I've all worked on, it was always 11 holidays.
Sure, but I think it goes beyond just the holidays. There's a lot of other,
The total benefit
and maybe I'm
package.
opening a can of worms,
Yeah,
but.
if you're opening the total benefit package, you're going to open a can of worms.
Okay.
There's all sorts of benefits that other jurisdictions give, you know.
So Trish, you don't want this?
I definitely want the insurance, but to me, $880, is that really going to kill the city to offer that in addition to what we're getting?
Oh, and the day off too.
Yeah.
And the 2 days off.
I've always brought it to council members, but not the city manager, but I never said that we had to give something up. We originally we had it. We had 13 holidays and we had insurance. It's group rate and the age of the staff, it's small. But for our employee to go out and try to get this policy on their own, I think it would be quite a bit more individually.
That would.
I totally encourage, I think that all of us should have it.
So real quick here, let me just break in. Do we have any speaker cards? No. Did anybody want to speak on this? Okay.
Rudy?
Oh, Rudy? Okay. I was just going to close the public hearing.
Sorry to come a little late up here, guys.
That's okay. I didn't call.
Assistant planner. Both are good deals. Having the life insurance. Not that I need it right now, but that day off also is pretty good too. Considering we are a small staff and a lot of us do take on a lot of responsibilities, and sometimes we stay a little bit over to accommodate those responsibilities. So, it's really at your guys' discretion, but I prefer
How many
that
employees
day.
we have for this program?
There's basically 10 employees.
10 employees, $80 average.
It's $276 per day for all of them that would be off, scattered throughout the year. So anytime any employee takes a day off and you multiply that times their base salary, it's $276,000. Now bear in mind, I calculate not just the hours that we pay for them, the hourly rate. When we pay the hourly rate, we have to put 7.65% away in Social Security and other unemployment insurance, workman comp. So all of that goes into the aspect of the final compensation.
But if we give them that floating day, we don't have to pay that, right?
Yes,
Yes,
a floating
it's
holiday.
You got a floating
holiday.
It's a paid.
These are
it's a
paid.
It's a paid holiday.
Okay, so we're not just giving you a day off, we're giving you everything.
Yeah, we give them a day off with full pay, which is, that day off will cost you $276 a day.
I just wanted to chime in. I don't know if this makes a difference, but under recent law, floating holidays are actually considered vacation. So they accrue if people don't use them. They put into the vacation bank, and they can get paid out for them when they leave.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually they accrue as vacation.
I tell my staff that
I
they
gotta
have
tell my
between
boss that.
January 1 and...
Well, you have to use them in those years, but if somebody leaves and they have unused ones, they are paid out as vacation. So you don't have to accrue
taking
them.
tomorrow off for his floating holidays.
Yeah. But as approved by the city manager, so it's discretionary. you
Right.
know? Yeah.
No,
Right,
But
it's,
it's still a
It's
paid,
the date that they, approved means the date they take it off. You might say, no, I really can't sacrifice you being gone that day.
I
You'll have to
can't-
take another day. But we get
You mean
to
I don't have the discretion to deny it?
deny it. That's-
I think you can
Then it's-
deny it, but if there's any in the bank when the person leaves, then they are paid out as vacation.
I think it's a very generous benefit myself from all of the agencies I work for, as well as the private industry.
where
But
are we
could go
today?
to the league. Pardon?
Where are we today? How many are there today?
What you see, what we were trying to pass last month, you have that document, so we're at 11 and 2 floating.
We're at 11 and 2 floating?
Yes, it's a total of 13.
Total of 13.
Okay, and the next, that's not a change on this document.
No,
It
it's
has-
not. No.
You haven't voted to change, that's what we've had in effect for 10 years.
That's why I put the item for the life insurance in front of this resolution. If you approve the concept of the life insurance,
Got
in
it.
the next resolution, you change it to one floating holiday.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rudy does have a good point. Staff works really hard trying to keep up with Roger.
Yeah, but you get that compensation, and we keep track of the comp hour, so don't forget that. Comp time is...
I'm just saying that,
Yeah, right.
I don't, the day off is a relief. R&R.
You know, this always comes down to the same thing. It's like everything that we look at is very small, but the cumulative impact of it when we do the budget is just, it magnifies. I'm amazed at how many small numbers become a hell of a big number real quick, and that's my concern.
So the budget's baked with the list that's on the next resolution
Yeah, exactly.
and without the insurance. I would suggest we make no changes. The budget's baked for it. The employees appear to be happier with that. And if we want to expand it beyond, expand the discussion, I think, that's fine, but
So would that mean perhaps with the next fiscal year, we should consider putting in the budget insurance for employees?
yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I think that that's the appropriate time to be dealing with it, as opposed to after we've already voted the budget in.
Yeah, and let's not do it at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Would you pay $80 a year for this?
80, pardon me?
You know, it's like 10 employees, it's $800 or something, is that the total cost?
Roger's will be a little higher.
Say $90 a year at 900 with the employees, so if we're trying to get a group rate for everybody for this life insurance,
Yeah.
would they be willing to?
Well, Aqua, this is through Standard Life Insurance, which Aqua has, they said that we would set it, their policy is we would set it at either 15 or 20, and the employer has to pay that, and if the employee wants to get additional, that's their option.
Just say it. It's right there. Can you hear?
No?
Put it
I
down.
could look at
Put it down here.
other plans to see that are outside of Aqua.
You want to table it?
Didn't do that. And bring it
no,
back
I-
at the
well-
fiscal year?
I don't want to see, it's a good opportunity for something that's really really cheap.
Yes.
And I think, us trying to do the floating day and that, you're going to have, some discrepancy on both sides, and I think there might be another way to work this out.
Well, I think budget time is the time to work this out.
Budget time is another time to
And
work
so
it
I
out.
think that we don't do anything until we come up with the next budget.
I would agree.
So this 11 plus the 2 is in the budget now?
Yeah, the 11 holidays and
And
2
then
floating
the plus
is
the 2.
is in the budget, you know.
Because,
What's not in the budget is the life insurance policy.
yeah, well, we kind of talked it over, and I have to agree, I was, when I looked at this list of holidays, I'm going, whoa, you know. But of course, I retired
Yeah.
years ago, and
Yeah, but you
back
had-
in the old days.
You had Paul Revere holiday.
Paul
you know,
Revere,
we got
and,
that.
yeah, I know.
Columbus
And
Day,
the
probably.
Yeah,
Well, they were
Columbus
probably-
Day is on there?
They were probably in the Navy together.
No more Columbus Day.
in thinking about it, I don't see any of our employees getting these tremendous pay that I see, you know, in other systems, like I don't know if you guys saw it in the UC budget, but there's 5, whatever they call them, that run the, like UC Berkeley and
Chancellors.
whatever,
Provost?
that make over $500,000 a year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you get a free house. So it's kind of tough to me, you know, to say, I mean, our people aren't getting minimum wage, but they're not making a whole lot of money. And, you know, maybe,
You know, just compare the health benefits that this package gives is both major medical, dental, and vision.
Yeah.
And the county now, they make the employees pay a proportion share of that. They want that.
Yeah, and I just don't like to, I'd like to do it all at one time. I'd like to look at all the expense, all the income, and see what we got, not doing it piecemeal, because you take anything out, it says, well, it's nice, let's do it, let's do the right thing, but
It's
Well,
it's
I
$1.80
have
a week
to-
per employee.
let's do that at budget time. Let's
no,
go.
I have to agree with you. Next year, let's do this at budget time and decide, are we going to keep this number of holidays, and are we going to offer them the life insurance as like a perk, you might say, or whatever, you know, because again, you know, like say Roger and I had this conversation, but I don't see anybody that's making a whole lot of money other than our attorney at 200.
Yeah, well, the attorney's always,
Well, I'm going to weigh in on this one. I'm going to have to agree with Chris and Jim and Tony, and I guess Robert, because this really is just the wrong time. Regardless of how we feel about it, this is the wrong time to do it. So I think we need to put it off until next year and do it as part of the budget process.
Okay.
It's a worthy thing to explore.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is the
think we
wrong
should
time.
just sweep it under the rug. I mean, you know.
no, I think we just look at it.
We just passed the budget. This is not the time to be making changes
Yeah.
already. So,
Well, basically my proposal was to save the city $3,200. I already got
that's right,
budgeted, so.
to pay for the medical.
Raise medical.
So it wouldn't cost us more, it would save us money.
Save us.
There again, that's another thing that we might have to think about next budget is with this 12% increase in the insurance rates and
It's
everything.
going that way that,
Maybe the employees, if they want to keep the vision and the dental, they might have to
yeah.
pay something, you know, because there are very few companies now that I know of that are paying for vision and dental.
Yeah, my company said that it's going to be, it's not going to be free.
Right.
No, it's not.
It's really expensive.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to be our age.
Not at my age.
Your workers'
Not
comp
my
goes
age.
up too.
Yeah, I have Medicare.
Well, on that
Sounds
basis,
like
do you
we're
still
moving
want
on.
to continue this, or?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure we're continuing it. It sounds like we're
Indefinitely.
just,
Or table it, basically?
Yeah. I think it should be brought up at next budget meetings.
Even though it's a cost savings?
it's not.
Very
So,
good.
do you need a motion to table?
No, we just don't take any action on it.
So no action taken.
So, number C, approve resolution 2016-XX adopting a holiday schedule for the fiscal year.
Well, I guess that'll be easy now.
It's already in place. I thought. This would have been the new one, right?
Yeah, you gotta re-adopt it
We have
this
to
year.
do it.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta adopt it.
So moved?
Public, do we have
Yeah,
to-
any public comment on this item? Okay. Motion on the floor?
Second.
So,
Okay, moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember West.
Yes.
Councilmember Bach.
Yes.
Councilmember Lund.
yes.
Vice Mayor Margarita.
Aye.
Mayor Edge.
Yes.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the leader passes unanimously. 2016-38.
Okay, D is adopt interfund repayment plan. Consider resolution adopting an interfund repayment program for repayment of enterprise funds of the sewer. Actually, it's not repayment of the enterprise funds, it's repayment of the city
General
general
plan.
fund debt
General plan, yeah, general.
by the sewer and water accounts.
And then basically,
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, the report that I had clear back in last year, you know, where we embarked upon several options to pay back that $1.8 million back from the enterprise back to the general fund. At the time, I outlined Plan A, which was based on that if you're going to repay it back, the federal government requires an applicable tax rate that has to go back to justify that loan. You just can't give money to somebody and says, oh, pay me back the, because then that has tax implications. But in the case of the city, we're tax exempt, so it's there. So then they have a category of tax exempt for the ATF, the applicable tax rate, you know, and stuff like that. And it goes all the way down to 0.45, I think, is something like that. But it starts at 2.08 and it goes down to 0.45. I outlined a graph that I want to show you that shows you basically, pass this around, you know, that shows you how I arrived at the costs. And I want you to take a look at column A, okay? When I originally did the calculations, I said you're going to pay back 2% interest on the loan. And so that gives out a monthly benefit of $1,000 per month payment, $183 back from the general fund, every month to the general fund, okay, from the enterprise. That comes out to $86,207 a year. The total payment at that over 29 years is $2,550,000. So the next column down there, number 4, the total interest that you will pay from the enterprise back to the general fund is $604,000 plus the principal, okay? Or $20,000 a year or $1,700 a month, okay? Now, if that was a loan from us to any corporation or any individual to build a house, that would be the rate that we would have to charge because we've given that money out. Because we did it internally, you have the ability to go down to 1.5%, 1%, 0.3%. The E would not be allowed by the federal government. It has to be based on the rate of return that you have on that money as you invest in it and its reserves and stuff like that. And in the old days, we were getting 1.5%, 2% a return on our investment where we would put that money away. The last, since 2007, it's been 0.3, 0.35 or even less. I've seen some of our returns 0.25 of 1%, okay? Now, take, for instance, D. If that was the applicable rate of return, you would pay back $5,688, or a total of $1,979,000 over a 29-year period. You would be paying back $83,900 of interest. Okay, that's substantially different than 604 in the 2%. The choice is yours of how you want to generate the enterprise money, that comes in there. This year's budget was balanced on A. We could afford that. But maybe 2 or 3 years from now, you might find that, hey, we can't afford A, and you might have to redo the FTR, which is the applicable tax rate, the ATR, and you might have to select C. And all I'm doing is giving you this as a tool that the rate that you're going to charge is really a floating rate over the next 29 years. And each council, probably every 2 or 3 years, have to take a look at this.
So it can be changed over the years?
Yeah, it can be changed because it's just going to be a resolution that we have here. This resolution here is based on 1.5%, okay? And it's not locked in for 29 years. It's going to be locked in to say you have the ability to change it from time to time. Mm-hmm. So that would be in two. Mm-hmm.
So when we were budgeting for security and stuff, we were kind of counting on a payment that was a wash.
That was going to generate
a wash generate for the security.
That was going to generate about $86,000, and we put away $81,700.
And that was under what plan?
That was under A.
2%.
Mm-hmm. And I'm saying is that B still gives you $80,000, and that's about what the proposals we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the resolution references Exhibit A. Exhibit A is the 2% option.
Well, and the new resolution there, the second line on there is I had 2%, and then I had 1%, 1.5%, 2%. So the third line is 2%, the second line is 1.5%. Look on Plan A. There's
on your report?
Yeah, on my report. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 categories, and the second one is a 1.5%, and the third one is a 2%, and then the 3% and 3.5.
Okay. So the budget is based on 2%, and the resolution is calling for 1.5%.
1.5. Yeah. And I tried to tailor the thing for the rate of return on what you've given them. There's an interest rate, and you comply with the IRS designation as there, and it meets with your budget category and the revenues in the enterprise. Now, if there's something substantially that deviates from people really conserving water and our revenues really go down, then you're going to change it and say, hey, let's go back and then pick another one that meets that thing, because you don't want to put a burden on the enterprise fund to where they have to pay a debt, and it's robbing the operations and the functionability of that water department.
You said the budget is based on A, but you're recommending we do B.
Yeah,
the deltas.
Don't give me A in my report, A, B, and C. A in my intergovernmental report, Plan A.
Oh, Plan A.
Plan A,
right,
yes.
Not
right.
Option A.
Not Option A, Plan A.
Okay, so which option was the budget based on?
So Plan A in there, and it would be the second one, which would be 1.5%.
That's what the budget was based on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Not 2%, but 1.5%.
That's what I was thinking, it was 2%.
Okay, that's where the confusion was.
Okay.
Right.
Plus the fact that we're not forgiving any part of the debt.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Tony, I didn't hear that.
We're not forgiving any part of the debt.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable voting on this with this not spelling it out more specifically. So that would be my input.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This exhibit needs to be in detail. There's nothing about frequency of payments, and, I mean, it's very loose and open.
Yeah, I think
In principle, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I think the proof of it is in the resolution where you have the sixth paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the city establishes the financial condition of the water and sewer enterprise account and performed a financial analysis of options for the repayment of the principal of $1,895,844 over extended period 29 as a reasonable rate of interest for the transfer amount at 1.5% to be determined monthly and annual repayment schedule by the city, payments to the general fund of the city, okay?
I understand that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't specify if it's a monthly payment, if it's an annual payment. It says or. It doesn't say what the amount is. I mean, it should have,
What are you reading from?
I'm reading from the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, and the
paragraph
and the
that
monthly-
you just read says
and
determine
this
as a
read-
monthly or annual repayment schedule
Yeah,
of
right.
payments.
And this will be attached to this resolution, this report here, and it says Plan A, of the thing,
Right, but
problem
but it's your staff report. It's not specifying what it's just not, it's too loose for me.
Oh, yeah,
I'm uncomfortable with
yeah.
this. I need it to be explicit. What exactly is going to happen?
Yeah, you
It's
want
gonna
to
be-
know is, do you want to pay it monthly or semi-annually
I want to know
or
what the
quarterly?
monthly payment is specifically, when it's due, all that stuff. It just needs to be, I mean, I can't go to a bank and get this. I want it to be tight.
You
We've
want it-
seen
you
over
want
and over and over where this stuff is sort of, oh yeah, that's just the way we
Loosey-goosey.
And it's
Yeah.
burned us. Look
Yeah,
at the
and I think we could then take that paragraph 3 and and expand it
Yeah, yeah.
to where it,
absolutely.
yeah.
I don't want the staff report to be part of the resolution. I just want I think you've got it structured perfectly. I just want the
Yeah.
detail very explicitly on Exhibit A. That would be
Yeah.
my input.
Well, I don't have that same concern, but I defer to you because you know better.
Yeah, because we have Exhibit A that's going to be attached to this resolution.
But
And we had thought that this was going to be the Exhibit A, which shows the principal and then the monthly payment, annual and the monthly. You can see in
But
Plan
it shows
A.
a bunch of different options there.
Yeah,
That's my
but-
issue with it.
But what you're saying is that in that Exhibit A, in the sixth paragraph, you're saying is Plan A, 1.5%, and you go across and says, that is the annual payment and the monthly payment.
But the Exhibit A I have in my packet doesn't jive with that. I mean, I have Exhibit A is here in my packet,
Yeah,
and it says 2%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And it doesn't detail anything.
this is, I don't know where that came from, yeah, right, the option.
That's
Should be Exhibit A, yeah, right.
Well,
yeah,
I'd prefer not to have all this other stuff in there. We should, in my opinion, it should just be what we're
One,
doing,
yeah.
not all the options
I see.
associated with
I
it.
see the confusion now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was under the impression that this was going to be the Exhibit A.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and I would ask that not be, that it be like this, a single page that details
Okay.
the monthly and the
Table for
term.
clarification?
We'll continue this and then I'll straighten that out.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I defer to your greater wisdom on contracts.
Oh, great.
What about this month's
You
interest?
fool.
Depending on what we have.
We haven't approved the resolution.
We haven't
Right,
approved it.
so
yeah.
it's
So
another,
no interest approved. Okay, next item, consider resolution establishing a water and sewer payment plan for limited income individuals. We don't have anything in our packet.
She left, didn't she? Yeah, right. No,
We don't have anything in our packets, so this is to be continued.
Well,
I thought it was a great idea until I realized that if you give somebody a break, somebody else has to pay for it, whether it's out of the general fund or whether it's out of this. And then there was a high number of people. I mean, it's like you want to give people, in my mind, I wanted to give people a break until I realized I'm just burdening somebody else, and I felt that wasn't fair.
I have to agree with Jim. It's,
That's the second time you said that tonight, and I really appreciate that.
We really can't move forward on it because,
thing.
we can't vote because we don't have anything to look at.
No, but,
That's what we're voting on.
yeah, it's,
It's a discussion item. Or no, it's not.
No, it's
no,
not.
it's an action.
Action item.
You can vote to not bring it back. I mean, there's no resolution here,
I
but
would-
if you decide that you don't want a resolution, you can vote on that with what's on the agenda.
Tony?
I would agree with that, not bring it back.
I would too, for a couple of reasons. I think I mentioned the last time we talked about this, I haven't gotten any phone calls, no one has brought it up to me. After having said that at the last meeting, I've had no one bring it up, it's not come up at all.
Yeah.
In looking at the detail of it, the discount is so small that because it's only on the water portion of the bill, it just doesn't feel like it's meaningful. And the amount of paperwork and additional work just doesn't seem to me to be of value. It just doesn't have value at this point. I don't think we should bring it back either.
I don't either.
Okay, so make a motion to
Dissolve?
Do we have public comment?
Does the item just die if we don't take action?
No, I think we,
You have it as an action item, so you actually should have public comment on it.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll open up the comment for the public. Anybody want to make comments on this item? Okay, we'll close public comment. So you're recommending that we take a vote to not bring it back?
You can do that or do it by consensus.
Table it indefinitely.
yeah.
I think
I would
consensus is good.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll move to discussion items, orchard garden collaboration with the State Historic Park.
So, met at a surprisingly wonderful meeting with the interim superintendent, the State Park District. He has just taken on the role as the interim superintendent. He works out of the office in Monterey. Daniel Dodge from Luis Alejo's office, he's one of the field representatives. He's been spearheading the process of interacting with the state park system. We've developed over the last number of weeks a proposal that was delivered to the superintendent for collaboration on a variety of projects, the primary project being creating better access to the orchard garden for the residents and for visitors to town. He was very receptive. We talked about many different ideas where we can benefit. The city can work with the state parks to benefit both organizations. He highlighted some projects that they're working toward and trying to get funding for, including reopening the Zanetta House upstairs, making it available for meetings and activities. He was very open and interested in the idea of making the orchard garden accessible. They do have, there's a variety of issues that come along with that. Because it is a state park, we've got to deal with archaeological surveys and stuff like that, but they are working toward, and I believe, made budget requests for the initial surveys to happen already. So it sounded like, I feel very good about the progress, the opportunity for progress relatively quickly. He was going to pull together a memo of understanding, some examples, hopefully some examples that they are using with other municipalities. The idea is for us then to have a memo of understanding with the park that would basically provide the guidelines for how we're going to interact, who's responsible for what, and some of those basic criteria for what the interaction looks like. It wouldn't necessarily directly deal with individual projects. Those would be handled separately. But this would be sort of the guiding document that would help us manage the relationship. So I'm very excited. I believe you guys are the attorneys for the city of Monterey as well, are you not?
I was.
Okay, but not currently.
No.
Okay, that he thought that there may be some contract or an MOU with the city of Monterey, so that may be a model for what we do here as well. So, as they similarly have some pretty significant park resources within the city.
So basically what we were looking at was just access to the park, like when we have that, and being able to give people maybe a place to sit down, relax, rest. I mean, were they under, that we want basically a minimum?
We're also asking that we have control to maintain it and do some improvements on there to facilitate
For
linkages and parking fountains and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think what we're talking about probably is coming up with an MOU that sort of details how we're going to interact, and then we'll probably come up with maybe this ad hoc committee, or we create a new ad hoc committee that is sort of a guiding group, and it would be people from the park, from the city, potentially some stakeholders from town, the Plaza History Association, for instance, and would create sort of a vision for the Orchard Garden and probably some other projects. One of the things that was discussed or has been discussed is installing a wooden sidewalk in front of the Castro Breen adobe. There's some things that we could probably help them with that would enhance the visitor experience, and so it's things like that. Roger and I've talked, and Tony have talked about us helping with maintaining the restrooms at different times, trash removal, particularly during peak visitor events here in town, festivals and so forth. Stuff that would support them, basically.
Because the little park is open from 10 to 4 on the corner here?
Yeah.
And if they remember to open it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think more importantly probably is the bathrooms. They frequently will close those when there's events here in town, and he agreed with us that that didn't make a lot of sense, and we just haven't had that collaborative discussion and talked about what are the criteria, who's got responsibilities, what's the process for, if there's an issue, how do we resolve it? We talked about, maybe not just throwing the doors open, but having it happen, during special events initially, and then gradually increasing. But I think there's probably some of the first steps are understanding better what their requirements are, their legal requirements are, surveying architectural resources, historic resources that may or may not exist in that space, and then figuring out a plan for how to address that. That could be a significant issue for us, but the openness was terrific. So I'm very optimistic. Any other questions?
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
we would arrive at somehow an agreement as to who's in charge of that.
I suspect they're going to continue to be in charge of it, but we will have Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
The reason I asked that question is, no one seems to know who's in charge
Sure.
of the San Juan, of this
Sure.
park.
Sure.
And
Could be ours.
To make a decision.
Yeah, well, and again, that's one of the reasons for this MOU, because that will spell out at what level those conversations need to happen. I think historically, I haven't been involved in much of this, but in talking to people, most of the contact from this side has occurred with people here at the local park. And at the end of the day, there's no one here in any position of authority to make any sort of decision.
Exactly.
So we're just, while it's good, we need to involve them because they're here, and then we have some tremendous history in the staff. They're just simply not empowered to make any sort of decision that we're asking them to make, and therefore it's created a tremendous amount of frustration. And so we're now, with the help of Daniel Dodge from Assemblymember Alejo's office, you made that contact and got that process started, and now they've helped us to get through to the right people, I think, and so now hopefully we'll actually be able to make some forward progress.
yeah, because, well, it's like closing the restrooms.
Yeah.
Who said to close the restrooms?
Yeah,
You know what I
the
mean?
person who cleans them probably
Yeah.
closed them.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll clean up after those guys close them.
If I clean it today, close it tomorrow, I can only have to be on until Monday.
Okay. That takes care of that. Memo of understanding with school district to allow after-hours access.
I've had a couple of conversations. I attended the school board meeting and pled the case. And then a couple of days later got a call, the superintendent's leaving. No.
Oh, yeah.
The superintendent left, Ruben Zepeda has left. They have an interim superintendent, a woman who unfortunately is right now on vacation. So we have, that sort of put a stop to anything. But she called and with Bill, their facilities director, the three of us spoke, and they're going to try to get us some information, some more concrete information, because I think part of the problem is we're not getting anything actionable, any actionable feedback. They tell us they need insurance, but they're not specifying what they need. There's no, do we need $50 million policy? Do we need a $500,000 policy? What's the scope of it? Does it, we're not getting anything actionable. And that was what I asked her for, was some help in providing some more specific feedback. I've also emailed and in fairness to him, I emailed him today, the head of the board, the school board, asking him to call me to try to keep this moving along. I gather he's an attorney. I believe he's an attorney.
Who is it?
I'm sorry, I don't recall his name. But he, and I think he was the one that had some questions during their last meeting, which I missed last week, about the specifics. So I'm hoping to connect with him so that we can move this along. But that's all I have at this point.
For what it's worth, I've run into various rec leaders from various cities, and I've asked them, well, what do you guys do with the school district, and how is it that programs are run on the school properties? And of the 3 or 4 rec leaders I've asked, they've all said that it was absurd that your school district was closing down the playgrounds and the ball fields at night. And in fact, the retired one from Monterey said, I'll go work out a deal. I feel that strongly about keeping your kids off the street. And I also asked them, under what authority do they ever ask you for additional insurance? And so there are joint use agreements, like say if the city was running a basketball league there, then there would be a joint use agreement. But in no other instance of the cities that I asked has there been a a school district that's asked the city to provide additional insurance just for keeping their playgrounds and their basketball fields open. So I would urge you, if you go to league events or you run into other people, to see what other cities do and start putting pressure on the school district, because it doesn't seem like any other school district takes this tact, except for this school district, and it's absurd.
I mean, does their insurance, like, stop at 4 PM?
I don't think so. I mean, that's just the issue.
I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Then we'll bring it back.
I think it's probably not well considered. It doesn't make any more sense to me than it makes to you.
It's probably all new.
But we need to get some specific
It's a lack
feedback
of
so we can
knowledge.
decide on a course of action.
And here's the problem is the board witnessed a lot of vandalism at
Yeah.
a certain point, and they told Bill, and just says, let's develop a fence around that. And few people made the decisions to put it where it is, encompass the whole thing, and just block the whole thing off. They did not think about keeping certain things open for the kids. They just blanked the whole complex off. And that's the decision that was made by somebody that's created this problem.
Yeah, they seem very much interested in providing access. It's just we're sorting out the details. They were, as I understand it, they were voting on adding a Z gate, what they call a Z gate, which would allow pedestrian access, not bicycles and stuff. But so I think we're close, but we just with their new superintendent or the interim superintendent taking some vacation, that's gonna, unfortunately, it's delaying things, I think. But so and that's why I went to the head of the board, so the chair.
Okay. Comments, city council. Chris?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Tony? Robert?
No.
Comments, city manager? None. Comments, city attorney?
Oh, she can talk, she gets paid for it.
Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All right.